Good afternoon from London. I am Professor Paul Frijters from the London School of Economics, an expert on wellbeing policy, and I wanted to give another wellbeing policy proposal. So one of the biggest problems we've had in the last couple of decades, particularly in large cities, is air pollution. We're thinking about nitric oxide, we're thinking about carbon oxide, and we're thinking about these very small particles known as PM2.5 or PM10. And this air pollution comes from old cars, which sort of give out these fumes. They come from coal-powered stations that are not very clean, from lots of industrial processes, also from leftover poisons in the soil. And more than we knew before, we now know that these things are very bad for people's mental health, more so than people themselves believe. And there's increasing evidence. We've had this evidence from experiments in Germany. We've had this evidence from careful measurement within the UK and in the US, particularly of areas which got cleaned up due to some government action. And you can look before and after, how much has this cleaned up the air and what has that meant for people's well-being and their mental health. And particularly well-known works are those of Simon Leuchinger about Germany, the groups around Andrew Oswald in the UK. And they've really found pretty spectacular effects of this kind of air pollution on mental health. But we also know what to do. We can outlaw old cars, we can mandate filters on the top of coal-fired power stations and other industrial processes. We can clean up the soil. And we also have an idea as to how cost-effective that kind of policy now is. So at the cheap end, as it were, cleaning up the coal-fired power stations by putting up a filter on top of the chimneys in order to capture the carbon monoxide and the nitric oxide. That can go as low as maybe €150, so 200 Canadian dollars per Wellbeing, which is 1 unit of life satisfaction on the 0 to 10 scale for one person for 1 year. At the high end of the costs, here we're probably thinking more about old cars or cleaning up particularly dirty soil. We're probably more talking about the vicinity of 500 to 1,000 euros or up to 1,500 Canadian dollars per Wellbeing. That 1 unit of life satisfaction for one person for 1 year. Now that compares very favorably with standard health services, which cost at least 5 times as much. It compares very favorably with lots of other interventions to improve people's happiness, like buying up the Olympics as a kind of prestige project over time. So this is a highly cost-effective measure, and it will probably come with lots of cost savings as well to the health service, as people who are less anxious, who are more switched on because they're less fuzzy in their minds due to this reduced air pollution, will work better. They'll show up at the hospital less, so you get more taxation and less costs out of them. And that filters through to all kinds of positive things. So tackling air pollution is the next big thing.